Thank you very much for tuning in. We're at a recap of everything that we talked about on our channel here. So basically, we're talking about what is pro-life Nova Scotia. Well, this is not some friendly, feel-good kind of thing, right? This is a really first we have to identify the brutal and horrific reality of what's going on here. We have doctors such as Dr. Michel Dow and more, many more, that have actually gone ahead and redefined what pregnancy actually means. Okay, pregnancy does not, it will never mean that when the implantation of the newly conceived oocyte, that's the implantation stage is not the starting of a pregnancy, but they claim it does. Why would they claim it does? Right? Why would they claim that the implantation stage is the starting of a pregnancy? Very simple. To be able to sell birth control pills, because the birth control pills doesn't prevent the conception. It doesn't prevent the very viable, healthy pregnancy. Right? The very, very healthy baby boy or baby girl will be unfortunately killed. In great numbers, right? In very, very great numbers. So, if you can imagine, this is marketed and certainly implied that the birth control pill doesn't actually, you will not get pregnant. That's the point of the birth control pill. Right? You will not get pregnant. A woman will not get pregnant, right? The man doesn't have to worry about if he goes in onto the woman that she will have the early abortion, but it does. It actually does, right? So we have these medical, people like Dr. Michelle Dow, and which is the point of this channel here. She will say to the young woman, certainly lying, right? Certainly lying to the young woman. Sometimes underage women, I've seen it. Right? These underage girls will go there and they will say, "Listen, I want some birth control pills or whatever," and she will make up these lies. And the number one lie that she's lying is, by inference or by omission or whatever she says, that it will prevent pregnancy. Right? So the pill will prevent pregnancy. So don't have to worry. You can, just go with, whatever Chad and Tyrone you want. There's no consequences at all. Right? There's no consequences at all. You don't need to worry about, being abstinent before marriage anymore. Right? There's none of that. Right? So she's just, just a marketer for the industry, for this pharmaceutical industry. It's not, it's not real. She's not a real practitioner of medicine, right? So what is the disease, right? Is it the natural female fertility, right? Is it the ovulation? Is it or is it the baby himself or herself that is the illness that is in need of medical correction, right? It's not, right? So the problem is that Dr. Michel Dow will lie, certainly a vicious lie, a dangerous lie. And what is the lie, right? So the young woman will come out of the doctor's office with the prescription pad with her dirty signature on it, and she will have in her mind, it will prevent pregnancy, so I don't have to worry, right? That's the whole point of her going to see Dr. Michel Dow, because she wants to prevent pregnancy, right? That's the whole point. But she has been lied to by Dr. Michel Dow. She's there essentially saying it's going to prevent pregnancy, but it doesn't prevent pregnancy. It causes early abortion, right? So how many early abortions, and what happens with the newly formed DNA? All right, so I give you an example, right? So 50%, or thereabout of the cycles will block the ovulation, right? The ovulation will be suppressed in approximately 50% of the cycles, right? But what happens to the other 50%? Well, there will be some, the sperm will be inhibited and all this stuff. Okay, well, whatever. But then, there will be a conception, right? The conceived, baby, right, will, the embryo, right, the most valuable thing on the earth, right, the human embryo will be at day 6 or 7 at the implantation stage will die, right? So that is, life begins way before implantation, right? They're saying, yeah, the implantation is starting a pregnancy. So if there's any conception, conceived, a blastocyst will fail to implant. It's not like it's a baby that will die. But it is. It actually is a baby that will die. The baby is very, very healthy and viable. The pregnancy is viable. The baby is very, very precious. And the zygotic genome activation, here, you know what that is? Zygotic genome activation, right? We talked about this on our channel over and over again. The zygotic genome activation is what? What do you think? Yes, exactly. The starting of a new DNA. The starting of a new DNA. That baby will never exist again, nor has it existed in the past. And you cannot replicate this DNA. It's not yours to destroy, right? It doesn't belong to Dr. Michelle Dow and those people. Uh, it's not hers to destroy, right? So what business is it of hers to actually go ahead and, you know, interfere with human fertility, right? It's twisted. It's very twisted. It's a very twisted, wicked thing, right? So pro-life Nova Scotia, really, you have to identify what the cruel thing is, right? And we go one step beyond, and we identify it like in a forensic way. Okay, so basically, there's been a successful conception. Congratulations, you are now a mother. You are now a father. This baby is alive. Okay, and then there will be so first there's a zygote, which is the very very beautiful stage of when the sperm will reach the egg. Right, there's a zygote. There's a zygotic genome activation. There's a new set of DNA that comes and is created, right, from 50% from the mother, and the father will be connected together. Right, this is very very special. If you ever seen anything about embryology, man, this really debunks natural selection and evolution. Right, the intelligent design is clearly evident when you're looking at embryology. The embryology textbook is basically the evidence of, right, intelligent design. I mean, it's so clear. Right? I don't know how anybody can misconstrue that. I mean, it's clear, very very clear. So then, of course, these people will be, the dinosaurs and the globe Earth theory and then the Big Bang theory. So they will be like, oh, it's just whatever. That's just the way it is. It's a culture of death. It's a culture of destruction. And that medical school, that whole medical school, right? The whole idea behind the medical school is, we were basically, my great great grandfather was a monkey and all this stuff, right? It's foolish nonsense, right? When you see when you seriously get into and dive into the embryology textbook, it's clearly intelligently designed, right? So you got the selection by the oocyte. Well, it's not a race. The sperm will not race, and then whoever ramrods themselves into the egg. It's not like that. The sperm. I got a baby right now. I got a baby. I'm expecting a new baby. Oh man, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So my baby right now. Don't you tell me for one stretch of the imagination that my baby's less worthy of basic dignity and human rights. It's not our society that actually gives the human rights to the baby. It's our creator, which is the Lord God in heaven, right? This is our creator, which is clearly intelligently designed the human body, right? So it's not, what business does she have to do this anyway? So the whole point about what I'm trying to say is she's wicked, right? She's wicked, and she could have chosen to be a better doctor, right? Or a doctor at all, right? She's clearly not. This isn't a practitioner of medicine, right? Don't get me wrong. Maybe one of these days, she'll fix a boo boo here and there. But no way. She's wrecked the whole entire society. Right? Imagine a pillar of human rights. She's standing up for women's rights and all this stuff when she's literally lying to these women, implying that, oh yeah, it will prevent pregnancy, but it doesn't, it causes early abortion, right? And, oh, so what? It prevents pregnancy. It does the same thing anyway. So what? Well, you got this baby, if you're religious at all, there's the soul and whatever. So the soul of this new baby will be created. The DNA, if you're a scientific guy, yeah, you say the DNA has been created, and there's no. But if you're, let's say for example, it's a philosophy, right? A philosophical guy. So, well, does a practitioner of medicine really have, or an ethics, or does a practitioner of medicine really have the duty to, in such a large sector of the population, right? Can she control the fertility of these people? Philosophically speaking, ethically speaking, the answer is no. I mean, let's say for example, right? We talked about this. Let's say for example, these drugs were not abortifacient. Would it be ethical? Would it be Would it be ethical for a doctor to prescribe these drugs? Let's say, for example, they didn't cause early abortion and they really did prevent pregnancy. The answer still is no, and it's written in. You can check that out in my other video. It's on my channel. You can check that out. It's not ethical to control a group of people's population, right? And I just remember like all these families, right? They had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 children, right, per family, even up to 12. Or my uncle had 14. My grandfather had 7 or 11. I got 7 children. I mean, this is normal, right? This is normal. If you think I'm not normal for having 7 children, that's just a normal thing. This is normal desires of a man is to want to, meet and, marry and mate with a wonderful human female and to get her pregnant as many times as physically possible. The love of my child, and I hold her in my heart, and I love her so much, right? My other wonderful princess, and then my honey son, and then my other kids that I love, they're wonderful, right? I love them so much, right? This is my greatest desire in my life is to to pass on my DNA. All right, so I was talking to people that, oh, how could you even say that? How could you even talk about abortion? You can't even talk about abortion because I'm not physically in Nova Scotia. Okay, well, I'm not. The reason that I'm not in Nova Scotia is because I can't stand the culture of death. Everybody is so pro-abortion over there. It's really a wicked culture, man. You talk to everybody. They're either 100% pro-abortion or they're indifferent to it, or the people that are pro-life. They're very, very. They're not talking about it at all because you got all these people. They're fighting me tooth and nail, right? And the people that are agreeing, they're just saying, like or they get a heart emoji or something like that. That's all I get. Right? The only thing that I get when I speak out against abortion, basically, is failure. I just fail. Right? So these videos, what am I doing? I'm not going to save any kind of man. That Eddie guy, that's a hero, man. That's 100% of a hero. You can check that out in my other video. The Eddie the interview with the 911 babies. He saved like 30 some babies from death, right? Imminent death, right? The abortion, and now these 37 babies can go on to have their children and their great grandchildren and their great grandchildren, right? He's a hero. Right? What am I doing? I'm a loser. I make these videos. I make these podcasts. And nobody watches it, and the algorithm gets pushed down. I'm not breaking any rules. I mean, it's not gonna, my channel's not gonna get any strikes or anything. It's all original content, and it's true. It is actually true. But what am I doing to save lives? Absolutely nothing, man. And I recognize that fact. But if I do want to get to sleep at night. Yeah, so last night, for example, who shows up? Dr. Michelle Dow shows up in my dream, and she's all like, oh, with her cocky attitude and all that stuff. And I was like, you have been a part of my life, like ever since I was like a baby, right? And you're literally my dad's like very, very, very close family member. Like she's a member of my family, my father, right? My father died, right? So why am I the only one, right? Why am I the only one seeing all this? Why am I okay? Maybe I'm not the only one seeing all this. I don't actually imagine I am, but why am I the only one acknowledging it and speaking out against it? It's so evil. Literally, she killed in excess of 1,000 babies, and she's living in a big brick mansion, and the bank account is bursting at the seams. Right, she's riding a jet ski on the lake at her lakefront estate. Right, she's so exceedingly wealthy, and everybody's like, oh yeah, she's a pillar of society. Well, she's a murderess. It's incredible. I thought this thing was going to go down in severity. For example, now let's say for example some other topics that I've had. Let's say for example MAID, right, medical assistance in dying. The whole thing about that is I did a little bit of work on that where they don't use anesthesiologists, right? The medical assistance in dying without an anesthesiologist, and causes the patient, the victim, to have extreme pain, and then basically the rock uranium will just paralyze, and then you will die a horrible death, and and all this stuff. I forget how that goes, but it's horrible. I just and now that issue has taken less of a precedence because it's not as important as this whole killing more than 1,000 children. Can you imagine killing 1,000 children and being cocky enough to be like, no, I'm gonna block you on Facebook and I'm not even gonna let talk to you. She's so evil. I mean, what? Oh man. Anyway, pro-life Nova Scotia is based on truth, law, facts, and evidence, right? It is true that the birth control pill doesn't prevent pregnancy. It causes early abortion, right? It is a fact. Anyway, I'll see you. Bye-bye.